let's just invite some high vibrational, loving energy into this space. Lighter is not really the best. All right, let's begin. My first spiritual awakening happened in 2016, and this was a pivotal moment where I started to see tremendous upward growth in my life. And I think a lot of that was because I started to develop a new relationship between spirituality and the world around me, understanding my own relationship with a higher power, God, the universe, higher self. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of get into it today and just share with you my first spiritual awakening, what I learned from it, how that helped me on the journey towards positive self-worth, well-being, and ultimately also building wealth, getting to a place where I was able to start my own coaching practice, and now just being in a place where I've been able to help so many women with their finances, with their overall well-being, working towards their goals. And it really would not have happened if these events did not take place. So today I'm really humbled and also just really excited to just share with you my wisdom and what I've learned, and hopefully it will help you alongside your journey as well today. So 2016 was probably like the worst and best year at the same time. You know, we've all had those years where it was like things just get worse, or you felt like you were at the bottom of the bottom. And I felt like that through different periods of my life, but I think specifically 2016 was the year where I really learned to love myself more than any other year. And I think in loving yourself is the first step towards actualizing any positive experience in your life, towards actualizing any type of personal fulfillment that you are searching for in your life. It really starts internally, it starts within. And this is why a lot of the coaching that I do, whether it's building wealth and starting to invest or starting that business, finding a relationship, at the end of the day, it's always gonna start with yourself first, doing the inner work, and then you will see the outward outcome of that. And nothing rang true to me until that moment and that year. 2016 was the year where I was coming out of a really toxic situation. I had no idea how I got myself in, and just really not loving myself in the relationships I was entertaining. I'm talking like early 20s, where I think 2016 I was probably, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 2013, 29. I was probably like 21, 22. So still really young, and I was still understanding like what I wanted out of life. I'm still in university. I'm still trying to figure out school, my career, what will that look like? Just navigating those college, university experiences where I'm starting to date. I never started dating until maybe like 19, maybe like my first year university. I was like really shy and reserved in high school, and I was a typical good girl, never kissed a boy, anything like that until maybe like my last year of high school and then going into university. So I feel like university those were my explorative years. Those were the years where some people maybe had those experiences partying and stuff in high school. I was kind of late, so I started to do all of that stuff in my undergrad. And so that's a whole other world. I'm like moving out of my parents' home. I'm on my own for the first time. I'm trying to seek my own sense of independence. And, you know, there was a lot that I learned through my own experience and just through friends and just through relations with others. And so fast forward 2016, I'm probably like third year university, and I was coming out of like a really toxic situation, and I just knew that like this person wasn't serving me, and I really needed to cut this person off. But for whatever reasons, whatever trauma bonding I had with this particular person, it was very hard to do so. And I think a lot of that was loving someone more than I love myself and not realizing how much that was taking from me emotionally, mentally. And although like I was still very successful with school and things like that, I just felt like when it came to dating and relationships, I had no clue what I was doing. And I think it got to a point where it was like, I need to make a change. Like, what is the reason for why I'm allowing this person and these energies to take hold of my ability to love myself fully, unconditionally, and to accept better, to know that I'm worthy of more, I'm deserving of more, but like there's that discrepancy, like why am I allowing someone to treat me this way, although I know that I deserve more? And so relationships can really be catalyst for bettering yourself, realizing like, hey, I'm in a situation that I don't like, why am I allowing it to happen? And it really forces you to look inwards as to like, wow, like there are actually a lot of things I need to work on. I had no love for myself. I had no respect for myself. I was more focused on trying to get someone else to like me than me determining whether I should even be liking this person. And I think this all started with one little thing that my friend did. She was really into crystals. I think she was way more spiritually in tuned, and she was, maybe I would say, like a bit more witchy than all of my other friends. And she was really into crystals. And that was something that was like really new to me. I was like, what are crystals? Like, what is this for? And she was like, hey, like, I'm gonna gift you this, I believe it was a black tourmaline. And she's like, yeah, you know, like, I believe like these rocks have power, and every rock gives off a different vibration, different energy, frequency, and anything in nature serves its own purpose. So she gifted me, which I believe was a black tourmaline. And I carried that with me for a very long time. And I probably eventually like lost it, but that was my first introduction to energies and realizing that like there are things outside of us that have influence over our lives, whether it's just like a rock or the weather or a person that you're dating. And I was just really curious. I accepted the gift with curiosity. And that was sort of my introduction to the spiritual world. It was understanding crystals, these magic rocks that like allow you to manifest certain things into your life. And then around that time, 2016 was the year that I started getting a lot of signs from spirit, the universe, signals. I would see a lot of angel numbers. And so angel numbers are technically repeating numbers that you will see around you, and it's supposed to be a sign that angels are communicating with you. At least that's what I first understood when I started seeing 1111. And like when you're younger, you always hear about, oh, 1111 and like make a wish. And I never understood like why that was. And I remember seeing 1111 a lot. The house that I lived in university was 111. The bus times outside my house to get to school like all started on like the 11th minute of every hour. I was just seeing 1111 everywhere on the clock, on buses, at school. I was meeting other people that were seeing the number 1111. Like literally, I remember being at like a cell phone shop on my university campus, and the guy that was looking at my phone mentioned, oh, like it's 1111. And then he was saying something about how it's like a sign from like your angels or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like that's when I was telling him like how I was tapped into that and how I knew. And then literally at that same time, someone else came into the store and mentioned that earlier they saw 1111. And it was just these synchronicities and just being in the energy of like, wow, what I'm experiencing, other people are experiencing too. This collective consciousness that was happening within my circles. So 1111 was like my first introduction to angel numbers. I remember typing in on Google, like, what is 1111? And why do I see 1111? And then, you know, all these articles come up about like angel numbers and manifestation and your guides trying to communicate with you. And for some reason that felt incredibly soothing to me. I was very removed from religion at that point in the early years of like my teenage years, high school into university. I grew up Christian, strong roots in going to church and stuff like that. But I think going into university, like the older I got, the less I went to church. And I think the more removed I was to spirituality and communicating with my higher self or this higher power. Not that I didn't believe in it, I knew it was there, but I didn't have the healthiest relationship. And I think that was the first time where I was like Morgan, like, you're not alone in this. Like, remember, you have God, the universe, your spirit guides. Like, they may not physically be manifested in this physical realm, but they are with you. They are spirits walking amongst other realms that are guiding you, that are protecting you, that are looking over you. And that was just very comforting to like remember, to kind of just, like, it, but it's like in seeing those angel numbers, it was like something vivid that I can latch onto. It was something that I can easily see in my environment that could remind me of the connection that I had to the spiritual world. 222, 333, seeing these repeating numbers was like, oh yes, my spirit guides are with me. And further deciphering like maybe what those numbers mean to you. And over time, I developed this like communication system and this own internal awareness of like what those numbers meant. Seeing angel numbers is something that is very grounding for me, and it really helps to pull me back into this trusting energy, this loving, encouraging energy that my spirit guides are with me, my angels are with me, my ancestors are walking with me. And sometimes I ask for signs, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm in phases in my life where I don't really need the reminder of angel numbers, but I know that when I do ask for it and I call upon my guides to show me signs, that is one of the first signs that, especially when I had my first awakening, that was very prominent, and that really held me and made me feel safe and made me remember that I am held, that I am loved, and that my life is not without purpose. Some other spiritual practices that started to develop within that year was also meditation and yoga. I got into meditation through going to yoga classes on my campus and eventually just doing more research on my own about this practice that was incredibly grounding, that helped me to get in tune with myself. Actually, when I first started meditating, it was very easy for me. Like, I just remember my first time meditating, just sitting in my room for like half an hour and just closing my eyes, focusing on the breath. And I remember just having such a vivid experience because it was the first time where I ever challenged myself to quiet the mind and to really just be with the self in the present moment, in that space. And I just remember seeing these vivid colors, having this like euphoric feeling take over my body. And I knew it was then that like this tool was gonna be super powerful for me in accomplishing anything in my life. That at any point in time that I felt out of place, out of character, I felt a sense of unease, I felt scared, I felt anxious, felt fear, that I could come back and find that moment. And it's not every time I meditate I have that experience, but it was that understanding that like this is where I can find peace and groundedness outside of just maybe using crystals to ground me or waiting on a angel number to come through to find that relief. It was like I can create relief now in this moment through this meditative tool. So meditation was extremely beneficial for me in that year. Never felt anything like it. And with that, I went down the rabbit hole that year, and it was through meditation, yoga, crystals, angel numbers. I started to go down into frequencies, binaural beats. I remember going on YouTube. I still do it sometimes when I'm not feeling well, going on YouTube, plugging in a binaural beat for like, it could be anything, headaches, anxiety, depression, and just vibing out. Or sometimes I would fall asleep to binaural beats and just wake up in the morning feeling really refreshed. And just sort of this cleansing of energies. I started getting into the sage, incense, using herbs to cleanse my space and cleanse energies. Just realizing just how important nature is in living our way of life. I feel like we're so far removed in this capitalist system. We're boxed in, right? We live in these structured homes, and maybe we live in regions where it gets really cold, winter, and we're not really motivated to go outside, to spend time outdoors, to be with nature. And so I found like relying on crystals, using sage and incense and these herbs was a way for me to remember that I am connected to Mother Earth, I am connected to nature. I've learned over the years, sage doesn't really, and I will make another YouTube video on these spiritual tools and things that I use, but Palo Santo is one of my favorite sticks and incenses to sort of burn. I feel like whenever I use this, there's a lot more positive energy that fills the space. Sage doesn't really work well for me. I find when I burn sage, whether I'm opening the window and making sure that the negative energy is leaving, sage, I don't know, I don't feel good that day when I use sage. I feel like it does the opposite. It doesn't really balance out any of the energies that I'm trying to clear. So I prefer to use Palo Santo and other sort of herbs like Cedar. I've also heard that like your ancestors, it's good to use herbs that your ancestors would have used. And so sage, I don't think it's something my ancestors would have necessarily used, but for some reason, Palo Santo just feels really good to me. Intuitively, this is what I use to clear my space. So anyways, getting into things like that, getting into things like tarot, starting to develop this intuition, realizing that I was listening to a lot of other voices about how I should live my life, how I should lead my life, and starting to come back to the center, coming back to me, what feels good to me, what do I love to do, what lights me up, what fills me up, why am I, where are the boundaries that I'm not setting? I'm not letting people know what feels good to me and what doesn't. And sometimes just guidance, sometimes, it's hard to make life decisions. Sometimes we don't trust ourselves, we don't really know what's the best thing for us, but I think using tarot was a great tool when I had my first awakening to really get the answers that I needed, to get the affirmation that I needed. I don't use tarot as a predictive tool. I think a lot of people try to use it as like a predictive psychic tool. I see it more as understanding the energies that are at play in the moment and an affirmation of what I think is best and what I want to do. I already have the answer. I already know which step I want to take. And I think sometimes we overthink things because we don't trust ourselves and our intuition and a higher power. And so using tarot allows me to connect to my highest self, my higher power, and to affirm what is the next best step and direction I need to take. So I love me some tarot. One day I really do want to create my own tarot deck or oracle deck, something I've always thought of, but definitely a tool. As I get older, and now that I've been more advanced within my spiritual journey, I don't rely on tarot as much. I find that I'm able to just tap into my own intuition and know what feels good. But there are moments where I still like to check in and just, check in with my spirit guides this way and just see like if I'm on the right path, gain some more clarity as to the things that are concerning me in certain life transitions. So love me some tarot. And journaling was something I really picked up that year, starting to really reflect. I think self-awareness is key when it comes to seeking change, when it comes to growth. And my way of reflecting is writing it down, having it in front of me. Really, we can sit and think about things, but I think there's something different that happens when you write. When you write, it's a process of letting go. When you write, you take something that has been in your thoughts and your subconscious, and you put it down on paper. Now it becomes the conscious, and you can consciously make the decision to now let it go. So journaling has also been a great method for me when it comes to manifestation, attracting things into my life, as well as the letting go piece. And it is one of the first things I do every morning. At that time, 2016, I probably wasn't journaling every day, but it was something that I would often check in with myself, maybe once a week, sit down and reflect as to, okay, what is working, what's not. A lot of journal prompts, immersing myself in spaces and communities, having conversations that allowed me to reflect on my life and where I was and where I wanted to be. So these were all the spiritual practices and tools that really helped me initiate that spiritual awakening. It didn't, like I said, I didn't really go looking for it. It kind of found me. Everything happens for a reason, and you will know when it's time for your soul to awaken, for you to ascend and to take that next step, to spiritually level up. Like I said, it wasn't something that I went searching for, like I was forcing. My friend found me and gifted me the crystal. That was a sort of initiation to get curious about these energies, these tools that Mother Nature that has given us that we can put to good use. And the angel numbers, that was something where I was becoming more aware in my body of the signals and signs around me to even recognize that pattern. Why am I seeing 1111 so much? I had to be aware, I had to be in tune for some reason. And I think I've always been someone that's very sensitive to energy. I do identify as an empath. I feel greatly. I can sense how someone else is feeling. And I think that's a part of the reason why I didn't have a lot of boundaries growing up, because I always felt bad for others. I always wanted to accommodate others and forgot about accommodating for myself. And a lot of women are, I think, very empathetic. You can find that, you know, they have a lot of qualities that would be deemed as those who identify as being an empath. And so I think already being very sensitive to energies, being in a place in my life where it was really going in a really bad direction, this was sort of my wake-up call. I think it was that divine intervention that was like, it's really time to step in. We can sense that Morgan's not happy with her life. It was the first time that I was able to really admit that I'm not happy where I am and like, I want more. And I think by letting the universe know that, it started to come in with its own way of intervening and showing me the path forward. So this did not all come without challenges. Even being on this spiritual journey, 2016 was in working on myself spiritually and developing that relationship with a higher self and a higher power. Towards the end of that year, I started to take a lot more actionable steps outside of just spirituality when it came to my mental health, because now that I'm journaling, I'm self-reflecting, I'm setting boundaries, I'm showing myself love. My relationships benefited because of it. I was able to have the confidence to cut people off. I was also able to better understand what I wanted. What does wealth look like to me? I wanted to, I don't want to be broke anymore. How can I work towards starting to build wealth, having money, feeling financially secure? What does that look like? Especially for someone who's never had that feeling before, who's never experienced it. How can I trust myself and believe that this is possible? Even love and dating. I mean, it still took me 5 years later. I'm 28 now. I'm finally in a healthy relationship, in a serious relationship. But it took me a really long time to get there. Even with this first spiritual awakening that happened like 5 years ago, it's still taking me time to get exactly to where I wanted to be, especially when it comes to dating and relationships. So it doesn't mean that you have this spiritual awakening and right away, all that you've ever wanted, your dreams come true, and you're like this whole new person. In a sense, any ascension, any leveling up that you do, it's gonna come with its own challenges. It's gonna come with you facing experiences you've never been in before. And that again can re-trigger, re-traumatize you and have you sort of having to face yourself and continue doing that inner work. So that saying that healing is lifetime work is 110% true. You know, life doesn't exponentially just progress and grow upwards indefinitely. Life is full of spirals. It's chaotic. It can be chaotic. And I think that is the part of growing, of becoming a better version of yourself, is learning how to find that balance, learning how to find peace amongst the chaos. And over time, you get better at it. Over time, you learn to remove yourself from the illusions of the material world and are better able to balance the realities of the spiritual realm, and remembering that we are coexisting, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That doesn't remove the fact that we have to get up and eat and work and all those things, but to remember at the end of the day, like, what really matters is how you choose to love yourself, how you choose to show up every single day and nurture and care for yourself so that you can also pour back into others. And in doing that, if we all learn how to just better love ourselves, we would better love others. And because we're better loving others, we're creating a loving community and a loving world. And it really starts with you, right? And I think that was the first time I finally realized that, like, wow, like this person doesn't love me because I don't love myself. And in order for this person to love me, I need to start showing up as that version that loves myself. Whitney Houston said it best: the greatest love of all was happening to her. And she found the greatest love inside of her. The greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. Okay, do not judge my voice, but such powerful words, such powerful words. And some of the other challenges, you know, it's that resistance to change will happen at times. I'm not saying I was perfect. 2016, that first year, that spiritual awakening, there were a lot of things coming up for me. It was really hard to cut off the people I wanted to cut off. It's like I knew I had to make these changes, but there's still that resistance, there's that fear, there's those attachments, those negative and toxic attachments that you may have to people, to situations, to certain beliefs. And I had to really tear everything down and review what I thought life should be and start to move forward, determine what life should look like for me. And actually, a downside to that first year, because I was so exposed to all these different spiritual practices and tools, I had a spiritual attack. And so this may happen to people that maybe start to dabble into the occult and, maybe more new age spiritual tools and practices, is that you can open yourself up to a lot of negative energy unintentionally. I think when I first started having this spiritual awakening and I started interacting with these different tools, I was doing so much and I wasn't protecting my energy. I didn't know how to protect my energy. So I was opening myself up to a lot. I was like, all right, I'm ready for this new life and I'm ready to, love myself more and love others with more intention and with boundaries and all of this great stuff. But the boundaries still weren't clear. So it was like, consciously, I knew what kind of boundaries I had to set, but energetically, subconsciously, I still wasn't setting them. And I opened myself up to a lot of spiritual attacks. So the biggest spiritual attack that I had, and I want to create a YouTube video on this too, and actually something that has really confirmed my belief to this day that we are not alone in this world. We are not just the body. Science teaches us so much that we're just the body, we're just the flesh. When we die, we go back into the earth and that's it, your life stops. It doesn't, because I have had my own experiences in that year that affirmed to me that we are not the only ones. We are definitely not the only ones. And that once you pass and you die, your spirit is still there. It is very much alive. You may not be able to see other people's spirits or souls, but it is there. You can't see my spirit and soul right now because it's hiding in this physical body, but when this flesh is gone, it's still there. And I had a very, very intense paranormal experience where I was falling asleep one night and I felt a hand tug me in my sleep. I wasn't sleeping yet. It was like 5 minutes into my sleep. So I was just dozing off. And I literally felt a hand grab my ankle and tug me. And that in itself, although that experience was scary and that's a whole other video, it affirmed to me that like there's so much more going on that we don't know. Like we literally are living in a world where there literally is a spiritual warfare going on. There is so much more beyond just you waking up and going about your daily life and going to the grocery store and going to the gym and having sex with this person. Like there's so much more happening behind the scenes on a spiritual level that a lot of people don't understand. And as much as that experience scared me, I think it really woke me up to one, like better learn how to protect my energy. But something about it intuitively felt like it wasn't trying to harm me, that it was a wake-up call because I really wasn't living the best life. And I knew when that happened, I was like, all right, I need to make some serious changes. I need to cut off some people because this energy that has seemed to be this overcast in my life at that time needed to go. And I think also just opening myself up to so much energies because of the tools that I was using, the incense, I was burning incense like crazy. I had all these crystals. I was listening to binaural beats. And I think just the energy in that house was already very weird. Like there was a lot of paranormal activity already going on. So I think it was just the setting and the environment too. Like opening myself up to all these energies in an environment that was already maybe energetically off. So that is also something to be very mindful of. I think as you start to gain more spiritual awareness and you tap into the spiritual realm, you will have more psychic experiences. You may have spiritual attacks. And I think knowing how to maneuver and move through that, I wish I had a lot more guidance as I was opening myself up to these different energies and using these different tools. And I think as I got older and I became more advanced in using these tools and finding community with other witches or, people that are very into the spiritual realm of things, I started to better understand how to protect my energy and how to just move with more awareness. And if you really enjoyed this story time, please like and subscribe and just share your thoughts in the comments below. Like I'm always just so curious to hear other people's, just relationship with spirituality, maybe religion. What does your relationship with a higher power look like? Do you have a relationship with a higher power, with your higher self? How do you identify intuition? How have you learned how to foster that intuition over the years and to gain that trust between body and spirit? I'm really curious. Have you had any paranormal experiences that have cemented your belief that there is so much more going on in the background, within the spiritual realm, within the metaphysical realm that we don't understand, that science cannot explain? I think There's a lot more method to the madness than we understand. So I hope that this has really enlightened you and has maybe motivated you in some way to one day find that breakthrough, whatever that looks like. And I think for me, this was my own breakthrough. This was the way that I was able to better step into that actualized, empowered version of myself, the Morgan 2.0. I like to say Morgan 2.0. My life looks so much different than it did 5 years ago, and I think that's natural. I think we evolve through life, and I think as we experience things, we learn to become better versions of ourselves. We better understand, who we are, our needs, our desires, our values. And I'm gonna start a series for this year because I'm turning 29 in a couple days, and I'm gonna be 30 next year, and just things to know in your 20s. I've learned so much, and I think your 20s is supposed to be that decade where you learn about yourself and you make those mistakes. I think moving into my 30s, a much more empowered version of myself. I have my head on my shoulders. I'm so confident about navigating life and relationships and career and my health, and more than I've ever been able to before. And I think that if I've been able to do that, if I've been able to pull myself from a very dark place, being in situations where, and this may be a trigger alert, but having been raped, having been abused, having been just really taken advantage of by people in situations, and people that knew they had power over me and wanted to manipulate the situation. And coming from a childhood filled with abuse and violence, and dealing with a parent that had a mental illness, like all of this so much, it has shown me, like, no matter how traumatized you are, no matter how much you have gone through, that it's not the end of the world, that you can really create the life that you love, and that what you've been through doesn't have to determine who you are. So I've learned that a lot. A lot of that I learned in 2016, my first spiritual awakening. So I hope you, can take a lot from this. I'm gonna drop some resources below, and I would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Reach out to me, schedule a call if you want to work with a coach to work towards some of the goals in your life, whether it is relationships, finances, overall well-being, your business. I'm here for you. And I hope that I can be the catalyst for you to see change, for you to have your first spiritual awakening, and many more spiritual awakenings to come. Bye, guys.